What's up there, people? So obviously, if you're clicking on my video, you're clicking on it for the title, my experience in 12 years of quitting smoking. So tonight when I got home, I was scrolling through my Facebook and I realized that I had memories, and I happened to catch one that said, today I was 12 years smoke free. So I actually kicked the habit 12 years ago today. So I'm actually pretty happy with myself. So first off, I just got to say to you, if you are new to the channel and you're clicking on it, obviously for that title, do consider subscribing. I do have outdoor photography, outdoor tourist attractions, also vehicle maintenance, tips, tricks, and repairs, and I do have some product recommendations and reviews. So definitely consider subscribing if you're into that kind of stuff. But without further ado, I'm going to get right into it, and I'm gonna start with day one, my experience, all the withdrawals, my health concerns, how my health progressed and got better, all the way basically from day one to week one, year one, two, all the way up until 12. I've got to say first off, for anybody that's trying to quit smoking, it can be a struggle, and mine was actually a struggle. So it basically took me, and I'm not going to over exaggerate, it basically took me, I want to say, probably in all reality about 20 tries to quit smoking. So I tried the patches, I tried nicotine, gum, all this stuff, and I basically would quit smoking for a short amount of time. I put the patches on, I chewed the gum, and then I said, okay, I'm good, I don't need to smoke a cigarette anymore. I would take the nicotine patch off, I'd stop chewing the gum, and then right away your body didn't have that nicotine, which is a drug, and the withdrawal was right there. So that was like right off the bat, after about maybe 5 to 10 times with the patch and the nicotine gum, I was not successful. So the reason why I want to say I was not successful is because, yes, you are slowly trying to wean yourself off of nicotine, but at the same time, you're still, using the patches and using the gum, and you have it in your body. So basically, to get into how I actually, just totally quit, it was cold turkey. So in my opinion, cold turkey is the easiest way to quit. And well, it may be a little tough because of the withdrawals, and you're going to experience like headaches, and you're going to maybe a little bit of blurred vision and different things. And obviously everybody's experience is going to be different. This is what worked for me. And I basically had enough. I was sick of waking up in the morning and hacking my brains out. I was sick of, going outside and doing something, taking a bicycle for a ride and being out of breath, taking my dog for a walk, and all kinds of, activities related to that kind of stuff where you're physically active. So that's what kind of really led me to it. In the wintertime, I would breathe in and take deep breaths, and my lungs would hurt. And it was just, as soon as you start coughing, you get that raspy throat cough, and it's like you keep coughing and coughing and coughing, and your throat would actually basically crackle, and all your skin and everything inside would actually basically, it was like having a cut inside of your esophagus. So I finally said to myself, I can't deal with this anymore. I have to do something. Like, I know my health is not, it's just not going to progress and get any better, at least to this aspect, with being able to breathe and all the respiratory benefits of quitting smoking. Speaking of benefits, we're going to talk about that. So obviously the benefits of quitting smoking. Number one, your wallet, obviously. So I just kind of Googled real quick to see what a pack of Marlboros were in New York, and it's basically $10.50 a pack. So $10.50 a pack. If you smoke a pack a day, it's about $325 a month. I mean, that's a pretty nice car payment right there. If you're, if you can control your money, and you're obviously going to quit smoking and not going to start eating or doing something else with your money. And if you do smoke more than a pack a day, maybe, well, I'm not even counting. Yeah, I'm counting weekends. But if you smoke, I don't know, maybe a pack and a half or 2 packs a day, so you're talking about $400. Maybe if you're a real heavy smoker, it's $500 a month it costs you to smoke cigarettes. So that's obviously, number one, why would you quit smoking? Obviously the benefits on your wallet and how much it's going to cost you to smoke. And you really, when you're actually quitting smoking, you have to think to yourself really strong, if I can control my money and watch my money that I quit smoking with. Maybe you're driving an old beater car or something. If you quit smoking, you can go out and get a newer car that is $400 a month and put that money aside. You got to think about all the good things that you can actually use the money for. Number two, obviously with benefits. So obviously if you Google, quitting smoking, how it's going to drastically reduce your risk of health problems in the future, there's going to be a million things that are going to pop up. You know, there's going to be emphysema, there's going to be lung cancer, there's going to be respiratory illnesses, there's going to be other cancers in the bodies. You know, it can affect your bladder, it can affect your kidneys, it can affect just about any organ in your body. And if you Google it, you're going to see all that kind of stuff. Okay, so yes, earlier on I talked about cold turkey, so I'm going to talk about, in this specific kind of skit right here, I'm basically going to tell you. So my first day, again, I had it set in my mind. I said, I'm not going back to this. I do not want to deal with the health complications. I want to just quit, and I want to get better. I want to feel better. And that was like, if you're a strong-minded person, it's going to make it even easier for you. So first off, that was set in my mind. I said, like, I want to make a change. I am so sick of spending money. I am so sick of feeling like crap. I'm so sick of coughing. I'm so sick of spitting up stuff in the morning. So that was my first thing that I did, is I actually just set my mind to it and said, I'm going to do this. And I will actually tell you too, where I, you know, like a year down the road, I actually made a cheat and I went back to it for one night, and I'll get into that too as we go along here. So I basically said, you know, I quit. That's it. I'm done. My mind was set. And day number one, I just, you know, I was so set in my mind. I didn't even worry about it. Like I still had the urge. Obviously, I'm going to have the urge. It was a strong urge. And, you know, maybe it was just after eating dinner. We have these, basically, everybody that smokes cigarettes, you have these times or these social events that just trigger you. Like for one instance, I had a buddy that would actually pull up in his vehicle all the time. And that was the first thing I'd do, is I'd walk out and we're going to shoot, you know, basically speak to each other and just talk and kind of shoot the crap. And he'd pull up and he'd park and he'd light up a butt and we'd start talking about, you know, the world and everything around us. And of course I'd light up a butt. It was like a social, kind of a social habit. So in this day one, you know, if a couple days down the road he did pull up, that was like one of my first starts with a real strong urge, because I was so used to doing that I went out there after years of doing it, and I had to break that habit, which was pretty strong. And then after dinner, you know, I'd always go out, and cigarette was as stupid. You know, anybody who's watching this that don't smoke, it was like a dessert. And again, it was because of the nicotine craving. And after you actually quit smoking, I'll get into that too. But basically, when you quit smoking, now that after you're done eating dinner, you're always looking for a cigarette. Now, instead of looking for a cigarette, you are actually turning it and trying to go for something else. And that's another habit you have to break, because you're going to gain a lot of weight. So as that first week went on and I encountered things like I talked about, my buddy pulling up and having that immediate instance to go out and light up a cigarette, I encountered all these kinds of things, or day after day with the, you know, the dinner or the timing, anytime that I would smoke a butt. You know, for instance, if I was on my way for, you know, to work in the morning, I was driving in my car, I did smoke in my car. So I had that habit. Sometimes I would actually smoke in my car, and then I'd go for a second cigarette before I actually went into work. So I'd stand outside and smoke about there. And that's another thing you have to think about too, standing outside. So if it's winter time and you're a smoker, obviously you have that habit, you know, you have to go outside and smoke a cigarette. So that's another thing that was always in the back of my mind. You know, when I was in work, everybody else would go in there to eat lunch and they'd stay inside the nice warm building. At the time I was working on cars in a garage. So my thought when I quit smoking was like, oh, thank God, now that I'm done quitting smoking, I don't have to go outside and stand in the cold and smoke a butt. Because obviously it was a public place, you're not allowed to smoke in it. So that was another benefit to help me quit smoking. So in the first week, all these things combined kind of added up, and I tried to put everything in my mind that was going to help me. So all the negatives about smoking and of course the positives of the health benefits that were to come. So, you know, the first week I basically got like symptoms of a little bit of nausea. There's a lot of things that happen, and of course it's all gonna vary person to person. So there's a little bit of nausea. I got a little bit of blurry vision. I did get some headaches. And so that was basically week one. And as week two went on, I still started to get these, but they weren't as bad. So I did get a headache once in a while. And of course, and I will talk, and you know, the urge is even 12 years down the road here. I don't live where I used to, but if my friend did pull up today and he lit up a cigarette, I'm going to talk about how my urge is, but the urge is still there after 12 years. Like, I could easily just go light up a cigarette, but I know in my mind that I do not want to, how far I've come, and I will never go back. And even after a year of quitting, that's what I had in my mind, that I would never go back. Continuing on, you encounter tough situations in life and you say, well, you know, the cigarette was my stress reliever. You know, that's everybody's excuse. And even if I quit smoking and I talk to somebody else and they still enjoy smoking, maybe their health is still good and they don't encounter all the situations that I did, and the coughing and wheezing and all that kind of stuff, then these people are going to continue to, they still got their high energy and they still feel good, so they don't quit smoking. And they say, well, I need cigarettes because of stress. So, in the, I want to say, first 2 to 3 weeks, how did I deal with stress? So first off, I want to say basically, if I had a stressful situation, no matter what, I just had to handle it different. There's always a craving of smoking a cigarette, but I couldn't really, couldn't fulfill a stressful situation with a nicotine fix that you could, just go out and buy an ice cream or something like that. You just had to deal with it in a different way. You just had to, count to 5 in your head, or just step aside, or just take a walk, or do something different than what you normally, do, or normally you'd go out and light up a butt. You couldn't do that. So you had to take it and go another way with it, and just, again, like I said, just take a walk, or just do something to keep your mind off of it, or walk away from the person that's going to antagonize you and make you mad, or whatever situation it's going to obviously make stressful for you. So about a month into quitting smoking, what was I dealing with? I want to say I was still dealing with, obviously, strong withdrawals. I still wanted to smoke a cigarette. I'd still encounter these situations, my buddy pulling up in front of the house, my after dinner, my work breaks, my before work, my car rides, even like just outside, if I was in the shed, if I was working on lawn equipment, a snowmobile, a four-wheeler, anything like that, I always seemed to have a butt hanging out of my mouth. So I always had that, and I was so used to that for so long. Your brain is actually basically programmed when you smoke. It's just going to be, programmed, and your brain kind of is you're a creature of habit. So the more you do something, the more you adapt to it, the more you're going to keep doing it. So again, talking about the first month in there, I still had the withdrawals. Once in a blue moon, I'd still get the headache, but I started to realize these different positive changes. So I started to cough a little bit less, not a lot less, but I started to cough less. And I also noticed that my nose, especially around like pollen season here in the Northeast, my nose wasn't as stuffy as it used to be. I was getting I want to say about 10% more of my smell back. And that's a big benefit too, is quitting smoking, drastically improves your health, or your sense of smell. So that was another thing. And moving on here, I'm gonna kind of like go, I want to say, basically talk maybe 1 month to 3 months. There wasn't that much of a change. There wasn't that much of a difference. It was basically about the same. I still had the cravings. They were still really strong. But again, it was all about that mind power and just keeping it in your head and staying strong, working through the stressful situations, and also coping with life in a different way than you're used to, and thinking in your mind the money and your health benefits and everything that's going to be good down the road. So moving on here, right up until 6 months, and I want to say, if you're watching this and you're going to quit smoking, you have to have the mind power. Again, I'm going to say that again, no matter what. So if you're watching this, you can listen to whatever I'm saying, but you have to have the mind power, and you have to want to do this to quit. And more than anything, it's just got to be there. So basically 6 months, what I experienced with my symptoms and all that kind of stuff is, I want to say I started to be able to breathe easier. Like there was less, I want to say, inflammation of my lungs. So my lungs kind of like weren't as tight as they used to be. Almost like it felt like they would expand more. And my sense of smell, again, with 6 months, was drastically improved. So I want to say basically from the 10% I was talking about before, I want to say probably about 30-40% I could start to smell a lot better. And then you're getting all these chemicals out of your body. And believe it or not, even though that cigarettes are actually, so to speak, nicotine drug, they quote unquote, they kind of are a stress reliever. Believe it or not, smoking actually makes you more anxious and kind of more fidgety, and it makes your heart beat faster. So I actually started to feel this calmness come over me. Like everything was kind of getting a little more calming. And, if a stressful situation came up, when I used to smoke, even though I would use the cigarette as my kind of cover up or my relief, believe it or not, the stressful situations actually got easier when I quit smoking, because everything was more at ease, because I felt calmer. I didn't have the drug going in me, making my heart pulse, race and all that kind of stuff. So number one, and I might not remember everything. I'm just kind of looking back on 12 years ago. So obviously improvements in your breathing, and your physical activities on things that you're doing. You're going to notice different things, kind of the way your body feels. You wake up in the morning and you're starting to feel a little bit more energy. You feel a little more energized and energetic. Year mark. So basically at 1 year, everything had, from 6 months, everything dramatically improved. And it was to the point where now I knew that like I was totally 100% successful. There was no going back, but I will get into that and how I did slip up one night, and it was about a year later in timing and how I did it. And maybe something you should take in mind if you do happen to have a beer once in a while, why you don't want to do this. So anyone that knows, if you smoke and you drink, it's as nasty as it sounds, especially for somebody watching this that's never smoked in their life. A beer or even a twisted tea or some kind of a malt beverage goes good with a cigarette, and obviously they're going bad for your health, but mentally it feels good. So when this year came up, I felt so good. I was confident. I said, I'll never go back to another cigarette. And, my buddy would pull up at the house and I could go walk out there and I'd smell the cigarette at this point. And I was like, it smelled nasty, and if somebody smokes in their vehicle, or I got a car at work that had an ashtray in it, I didn't even want to get in this car. Even my own car, I never had an ashtray in it, and I didn't even really allow too many people to smoke in it. If there was that one night and I was a kid and I had a few kids riding around in the car, the next day when I got into my car, I was very mad. I was looking, hopefully there was no burns or anything in there. It smelled nasty. But when I smoked in my car, I had this technique where like the AC was on or the heat was on, my window was cracked just a little bit, so the the force of the air coming in from the heater was going to push the smoke out. And most people would get in my car and say, "You smoking here?" I say, "Yes, I do smoke in here." And like, I would never know that. I'm not smoking in your car. So again, talking about that in the first year, now my physical activities and my lung capacity, and if you Google it, all these different things change at different times. But my experience personally at a year, and basically I think I started smoking about 15 years old, basically when me and my buddy were building tree houses and things like that. So I had smoked for a good 20 years, and I just or 25 years, I'm sorry. But anyway, my lungs, the capacity, my physical activities, waking up in the morning, feeling fresher, knowing that I had extra money, and all these benefits just said, I'm never going back. But, talking about the slip up now, and that's what I'll get into right now. So the slip up, I went up to my friend's campground, and we went up there, and I actually quit. It's funny because I actually quit drinking because of I was trying to just benefit my health in a million ways, and I encountered fatty liver disease and a few different things. So I said I got to make drastic changes in my life if I want to live longer and enjoy life. So I quit about the same time, a little while after I quit drinking, or quit smoking. I quit drinking. Well, what I was getting at is when I went up to the campground, we were up there, we were having a few drinks, and my friend said to me, "You want a cigarette?" And I said, "Heck with it." I wasn't drunk, but I was feeling pretty good. And I think at that time I was drinking some twisted teas or something. And I lit up a cigarette. So when I lit up this cigarette, I'm telling you my experience, in case you think that you can go smoke and drink and then not go back to it, which was my case. So basically I had a great night. They had deer meat on the table, and we had deer meat, and I was smoking cigarettes, and all in all, I was feeling good. A few twisted teas in me. It was a good night. I was feeling great. And the next morning, like, I paid dearly. Like, everything that I had ever had health-wise with cigarettes it almost felt like the next morning, including the hangover, it was like right back to me like 10 times. It like hit me like a train. I woke up and I felt awful. Like I literally puked, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, why did I do that? Like, I could have kicked myself. Even now today in life, if I just eat bad, like I go out and I get a hot fudge brownie sundae, like I pay for it dearly. I know I do that. If I get a soda, like it's nice on a Friday night, instead of even, or having a drink or something. If I want a Coke and I went to the Olive Garden, I just want to treat myself to like something with a little sugar, something with some taste instead of water. I feel that in my body. Like I just sugar anything. So this is just who I've become and how sensitive I am in life. So if you think you can go have a couple beers after you quit a year later, think twice, and I'll save you the troubles of waking up and feeling like crap and puking your brains out. Year 2, and basing this back off of year 1, I want to say that after you've already gotten to year 1 and year 2 especially, you're kind of at that point where you start to get to places, you'll see a cigarette or you'll see an old buddy smoking a butt and you'll look at him a little different. Not him, but the cigarette, you'll look at the cigarettes a little bit different. And it's almost as if, like, yeah, I used to smoke, but no, I don't smoke anymore. It's strongly in your mind. And you just think to yourself, you smell it and it smells different. And you're like, I could light one up. I'd like to light one up, but you have it so strong in your mind and you feel so good and everything's so different in your body. And all it would take is just a short run for you to remember, if you could go back to how you felt when you smoked with breathing, and then you could take that and you could do a comparison of how you felt now. And obviously you can't do that, but that's, hypothetically how it would compare. So it would actually, you'd feel the difference and just taking a run and knowing you could breathe. And, another thing I said to myself when I quit, and around the 2-year mark, is I think to myself, if the rest of my body's shot, even if for some odd reason my bones degraded, I was in a wheelchair or something that went real bad, I'm thinking to myself, life could be horrible. Like, you never know what could happen. At least you can breathe. Like, that's just anybody's fear in life. If you have a fear of drowning, obviously, that's what basically at the end of, emphysema and things are like, it's just going to be as bad as drowning because you can't breathe. So, year number 2, again, you've got it strong in your mind. You realize you quit, you see somebody doing it, and you just feel all around 100% better. I will get into, and I didn't get into it earlier, but I'm going to talk about basically every time that, you have this craving and things earlier on, you're still going to have this craving. You're going to want to eat. I did gain some weight, that's minor stuff, so you can gain weight and you can kind of take control on that. Or, you may catch yourself eating a candy bar or eating something else after looking for some kind of craving. And a way to overcome that is just to, when you're done eating or your buddy shows up or something like that, just kind of, if you wait 10, I think it's 10 seconds or something, or maybe 10 minutes, you kind of put it in your mind, and then you just, let the craving pass. Like, it will pass, it will go away. So, it just gets easier from there on out. So basically, even if I up to about 5 years, and I'm thinking about it now, and I don't want to bore you too much because, you're probably looking at this for 12 years. So 5 years, by then, I definitely didn't even think about a cigarette. When I saw a cigarette, I didn't look at the person as different, because I always said to myself, I smoked. I'm not going to look at and judge somebody for smoking a cigarette any different. But I kind of felt for that person. I thought, well, they smoke, and I was at that point in my life, but I just thought, oh, they're nasty. Like, the cigarettes are nasty. And, I just looked at the cigarettes a different way. I'd see an ashtray out somewhere, or I'd happen to get a car at work that had an ashtray in it and it smelled so bad. It was so nasty. I was like, how could I have even done that for years? So that was basically, 5-year mark. It's like, you're totally done. You're not going to go back. Could you light one up? It's always in your mind. Like, the urge, it doesn't really ever go away. It's just overcoming and having the mind power to say to yourself, I will never touch another butt again. Skipping on to 12 years here, and I want to say, 5 between 12, there wasn't much of a difference, and I didn't want to bore you too much, and I wanted to get, right to the end and just tell you. So here I am 12 years later, and I want to say, if you Google, or if there's books out there and there's different things where you can talk to your doctor, there's different timing on what they say each individual person, how they're going to experience, how their lung capacity and things are going to change, how, times and what you're going to feel. And it's all going to vary from person to person on how you're going to feel. So here I am 12 years later, and even though I quit smoking, I do have numerous other health problems, and I'm still trying to work on them. And it's basically all in all in life. Quitting smoking obviously drastically improved my health, but eating is a big thing. So here I am 12 years, and I still look at the cigarettes like I could light one up. Like, there's times that I even think to myself that, wow, I am mad. Like, I could just, if I could just light up a butt, it would all be gone. Well, then I really think about, how I had this calm feeling, how nicotine would actually get my heart racing again, and I'd start to be anxious and not even know that, yeah, even though, especially now without the nicotine being in me, that nicotine is not going to do anything for me. And everybody out there, I know that today in Massachusetts and I don't know what other states are, it's actually legal, is you got weed stores all over, and I almost feel like marijuana is like the new cigarette. Back in the days, it was like our grandfathers and elders, they smoked cigars, and cigars kind of faded away and went to cigarettes, and now it's like cigarettes are actually kind of fading away, and it's going to weed, or some of these vape pens and these new electronic devices that give you different things, nicotine and THC and all that kind of stuff. So here I am 12 years later, and while I cope with a million different things in life, I feel it's like a very big accomplishment. Like, I'm happy that I did it. I feel good that I did it. And if I know that I did that, I can move on to other things. And if I can accomplish that, I can just about accomplish anything. So I want to first off just say thanks if you watched to the very end, and I wish you well. Like, if you have any questions, I did skip a few things, just feel free to comment on anything I experienced in the timing. Maybe you want to ask me about my 7th year and what I felt. Just feel free to comment, and I'll answer any questions you have. And do definitely consider subscribing to my channel for all my other life escapades. And again, thanks for watching.